Hello and welcome everybody to another video from the Unlimited Power TCG crew. I'm calling it a video and I'm not calling it a podcast this time out of habit, so I'm sure that will go down like
Is that because
a
we have
house
visual
on
aids?
fire. No, it's because I don't know
Do
exactly what we
visual.
are. Yeah. We're definitely not a podcast. We absolutely have visual aids and it's not going to work otherwise.
Have we got on PowerPoint?
No, we
I'm not
have.
interested then. If we haven't got on PowerPoint, I'm not.
We've got some graphics and we've got a website which I'm going to use to take you through what we're going to be doing here. So,
What are we doing here today then?
what we're doing is I'm going to take you through some basics on some tools on how to build a basic deck in Star Wars Unlimited, and use suggestions on what you can put in your deck, how to put it all together, how to work out good things to put in, ratios of this, ratios of that, all this sort of thing. If you're a highly competitive player, if you've played a few games already, if you've used Star Wars swudb.com a bunch to build your decks, if you know how many one drops you want in your deck and all this sort of stuff, this video is probably not for you.
You should watch it anyway because the engagement was helpful.
We're going to go through. Yeah, just
well,
managing
you
expectations.
might learn something. You don't know. There might be some sort of like magic tip that you hadn't realised, and then
it's possible, I suppose.
Now it pushes you over that limit.
That might happen.
And you were going three to 1, and now you're going 4-0.
Yeah. I'm going to shout out all my stuff first, though. We are a UK-based channel. There is a Star Wars Unlimited UK Discord linked to in the video description below. There is a Star Wars Unlimited Facebook group linked to in the video description below, which has a compiled list of all the events going on in the country. So if you want to see if there's any tournaments or weekly plays or pre-releases or any of that stuff going in there, join the Facebook, join the Discord, get talking. We'll share all the information in there, and it will be the best way to get involved in organised play and tournaments and events and stuff for Star Wars Unlimited in the UK.
Wicked.
That being said, what do you guys know so far, if anything, about building a deck in Star Wars Unlimited?
Do you know what? Very little, and I'm glad that we're making this video because the game comes out in 4 days. I'm going to have the 2 starter decks, and I've got like 12 boosters coming. So maybe opening the boosters, and I do not have the foggiest.
12 boosters? So, there's 24 in a box, mate.
Okay, well, I'm getting 24 boosters. Maybe I'll open 12 in a one and see. But yeah, no, I mean, I'll have cards. So this is a perfect time for me.
Excellent.
Yeah, Tony? Absolutely. I've played with a constructed deck. You know, the one that you buy the starter deck. But I am yet to construct my own deck. Now, part of that's because I haven't got any cards, and the other part of that is because I've got absolutely no idea how to build a good one.
Fair enough. Well, a lot of this information is coming from like 3 main sources. One is the knowledge I've accumulated from sieving all the things in Discords and Facebook groups and whatnot. The second is a new player guide on garbage rollers that we did a little video on a little while back. And the third is swudb, the website which has a complete listing of all the cards in the game, and a little deck builder facility in there as well, which is really, really handy. And we're going to absolutely make use of that today. But the basic premises are you make a minimum 50 card deck plus 1 base plus 1 leader. And therefore, what you want to do is you want to make a deck using certain... what's the word I'm looking for? Criteria. That's what I'm looking for. And these are the sort of like collated criteria that people who've played loads and loads of CCGs over the years have pulled together. This is mainly the guys at Garbage Rollers and a few others. So when you build your deck, you need a leader, you need a base. You might want to decide them ahead of time. You might not. But generally speaking, they will inform the entire theme of your deck. They'll decide what aspects you have, what colors you have, what sort of flavor you want to put in your deck. Out of those 50 cards, in order to ensure that your starting hand will have something in it that you can play on turn 1, during which time you will have 2 resources on the board, make sure you've got approximately 12 cards that you can play during turn 1 in your deck. This has been mathematically worked out in detail in the Garbage Rollers article. They show you it's like 95-96% chance with a mulligan of having something in your hand that you can play on turn 1 by following these numbers. Space units and ground units win you the game because they allow you to do damage to bases, which is what the criteria is for winning Star Wars Unlimited. But space units in the power budget are a tiny bit behind ground units. Just a tiny bit, but enough to make a difference. So if you want to do more damage, then ground units are more effective. but you don't want to ignore space, because if your opponent goes all into space and just do huge amounts of damage to you unchallenged and take care of your ground units, then it's a tactical hole that you need to fill.
So is there such a thing as like an anti-meta list? So everybody knows that ground units are slightly better than space units. So if you were to do an anti-meta unit, you could go hard into space units, overwhelm your opponent because they probably didn't bring that many because they're not that efficient, and win that way.
Yes and no, because if your opponent went hard into space and completely ignored ground, and you went fully into ground and completely ignored space, then the ground would, on average, do more damage than the space, because it's just got that little bit more power budget.
But if you went hard into space and your opponent went hard into balanced,
then yeah, potentially. At the moment, the meta's still a bit unformed because the game's not officially out yet, even though people have been playing it for months.
Yeah.
The general advice given is throughout your deck, 12 of the cards should be space units, and the general ratio advised is 2 ground units for every space unit in your deck, give or take, roughly. Events are things that won't, in the very vast majority of cases, do direct damage to your opponent's base, but they're tricks, they're spells, they're things that happen that will cause you to gain board advantage, make your units more powerful, whatever else. So, because they won't... Oh, sorry, go on.
Oh, sorry, I was going to say, in some of the simplest events are the most powerful ones.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I learned from playing against you, Mark, because you had one that just made me put one of my creatures back in my hand, but my creature was like a 9/9 80/80 that was about to kill you, and you're like, put it back in your hand, and it was like huge. So, like, even the littlest events can have giant swings in the game.
It could be a massive swing. That was a card called Waylay, so a 3-cost card from the yellow cunning aspect that bounces something back to your hand. There's another cunning aspected event that costs 2 or 3 called Surprise Strike, which is play this card, choose a unit to attack with, they get +3 attack when they do so, out of nowhere. So you're absolutely right. Events can change the course of the game, but on their own, they cannot win you the game.
No.
Because they have to buff your units to do it. Pick out roughly between 6 to 9 late game bombs, they're referred to. These are things that you can play in the end of the game to close out the game, do a load of damage, establish your control over the board so that you can put a killing stroke in the following turn, or basically guarantee the win by the sheer power that you're playing with them. Probably on turns 6 or 7 or 8 when you're playing 7 or 8 or 9 cost units, give or take.
Brilliant.
And then fill out the rest of your deck with ground units.
Cool. So you have 36 plus. Is your leaders included in your 50 cards then? Yes.
No, leader is on top of that. The base is on top of that.
Okay.
And some of your 12 round 1 plays could be space units as well.
Of course they could be. And some of them would be ground units as well, probably.
Yeah, most of them are probably going to be ground units.
Is there any legs in going beyond the 50 card?
So it's arguable, but generally accepted wisdom is that the less cards you have, the more reliable your chances are for drawing the cards that you want. The more cards that are in your deck, the less chance there are of getting a specific card. And by focusing and narrowing it down to the 50 card minimum, you're more likely to be able to draw the same sort of thing reliably game after game after game.
True. I feel like I had a question about that. I guess, like, if you had a deck that was very focused around one aspect, it might be okay to put like an extra card or 2 in there if you think it's part of a build. But I think I genuinely agree with what Mark said there. Okay.
So this website is Star Wars Unlimited DB, created by a member of the fan base whose ID is Nerd Parker, as is on the main page there. We've done an article on this before. And this is a tool for which we're going to be using to build a very quick deck this evening. And we'll share it with you guys as we go. Hopefully you'll be able to make one yourselves off the back of this. You create your own account with the website. You can then go in and there's a little link at the top here called My Decks, which we can click on. And from there, you can see all the ones that I've started to build, which are all relatively pointless for this exercise here. But we then click on New Deck, and then it takes you into the interface for creating a brand new deck with a randomly generated name that it's given it that you can change quite easily. I don't know, for sake of argument.
Of all the Star Wars related puns.
All right, what do you want to call it?
It's a trap.
You probably hear me typing really loudly, I guess.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
That's the sound of a mechanical keyboard, that is.
It is, you're not wrong. Right, so...
Cherry red switches.
John, pick a leader.
Any leader I want.
Yeah, well, preferably one of those 18.
Sure, I am going to pick Cassian Andor because
Yep.
I'm looking forward to Andor Season 2.
Fair enough, as am I. That's going to be a really good series. Tony, pick a base. Preferably not a red one.
Not a red one.
That's going to make deck building simple and complicated at the same time.
Okay, let's go with... Dagobah Swamp.
Yeah, okay. So Cassian Andor
puns.
blue. So it'd be an aggression and vigilance deck combined in Cassian Andor, which is fine and dandy. And then we'll see down the right here, you've got a list of all the cards that can be picked that have any of those three aspects in them amongst these four categories here: events, ground, space, upgrades.
Okay.
So if we just unclick a couple of those, then we just filter it to show units, and we can sort that by cost. So now we've got a list of all of the ground and space units in the game that can be played in this deck that have either or any combination of those three aspects represented by hero, aggression, and or vigilance.
Okay.
So you can see you've got ones and twos, and just pick out the 12 that you want to pick from these, and you can see by hovering over it, it shows you a pop-up picture of what the card is and what the card does.
Okay.
Yeah. What a great website, huh?
So we want like what? It says you said 12 level 1 and 2. So we talk about like 6 1s and 6 2s, or does it really matter?
Yeah, we could do that, or you could. It doesn't really matter too much. The flexibility comes later on. If, for example, in like turns 3 or 4, you've got one resource left, it might be worth having some 1-drops in there to be able to use later on. But the 2-drops, if you spend 2 resources turn 1 to play a unit, then you finish your turn quicker than if you spend a single resource twice to play 2 units, which means you're more likely to be able to take the initiative for the following turn.
Okay.
Which means you get to act before them. So it has its advantages in playing as few units or actions as possible.
True.
Okay.
But that's just getting a little bit like detailed. So let's just pick some units. Sabine is a really powerful unit. Let's bung her in. Green Squadron A-Wing is a really powerful spacecraft. We can bung that in as well.
So you're adding 3 of these to the deck when you're clicking that, correct?
Yes, 3. You click the number that you want, and it'll add that number into the deck, which you can see is beginning to stack up here on the left. Okay. And then we can sort that by type. We can sort it by cost. Display is something that I've never really used because it's not that massively useful for this purpose.
Okay.
And then just putting a few other things in there as well. Let's go with R2 for sake of argument. And Guardian of the Wills for sake of argument. This is not a massively chosen in the eye of Synergy's way of picking things. I'm just putting things in to populate the deck here at this point.
Okay.
So here you've got 3 copies of R2, 3 copies of Guardian of the Wills, 3 copies of Sabine Wren, 3 copies of Green Squadron. So we're a little bit behind on space compared to ground, but we've still got your 12 1 or 2 drop cards there to play on the first turn.
Okay.
Then we wanted to, part of the criteria there was to make sure you've got approximately 12 space units in total. Okay. So what you can do is you can go to the filter here, move it so it just shows space units. And then again, for sake of argument and keeping it simple, we can pick a total of 4 of these. We've already got 1 space units to go in throughout the costs, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and all this jazz. And fill out the deck with space units throughout the cost curve.
Mm-hmm.
So probably a couple of 2s, a couple of 3s, a couple of 4s, and like a 5 and a 6.
Yeah, or a high-end one could work just as well. This redemption here is a very powerful one that heals when it brings in. But if you're bringing out an 8-drop and you need to heal your base rate, then that's maybe you're in a really, really bad state at turn 7 at that point anyway.
Mm-hmm. Can you heal your base beyond the starting 30? No.
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 The
Okay.
starting is a cap for how high you can heal them. System Patrol Craft is a very useful spacecraft in general.
Okay.
Because what that does, it's a 4-drop 3/4. It's a little below the curve on stats, but it has Sentinel, so it blocks from
Yeah.
your opponent from being able to attack your base from space units, which is always useful.
Very powerful, yeah. It renders all those like 1/1 TIE fighters and stuff redundant, really, doesn't it?
Yep. Aggression cards like to hit hard, so Starwing Scout being a 4/1.
Oh, well.
It costs 3, so 4 is about on the money for stats. 1 is really low defense. But if you've got the initiative, drawing a few cards is better than nothing, but it's also damage output. And then from there, Black One's not massively good. The Ghost isn't good unless you play no Spectre stuff. Corellian Freighter's okay, but it's a little bit under power budget. So let's
Let's say the
this
Sword
one in,
Arc. Yeah, sure. Okay.
because having a spaceship that heals whenever it attacks is always
Very
useful.
good.
Okay, so what's next we need to add? We've got our 12 spaceships, or our 12 thingies. We've got 12 in total of our starter units.
The next one was events, which are tricks and things. So if we wanted to look at what all the various tricks were, or the events, we could go into making it so that the events tab was the only one visible, and scroll through what all the events are that we have access to with the colours that we've chosen. For a Cause, I believe it is a very powerful event, but it works best when you've got lots of hero aspected cards in your deck. So it's probably not going to be optimal for the deck we're building here. But then again, this is all intended to be relatively basic anyway.
Yeah.
So let's pick out some things that I know are good, unless there's something you particularly want to spot.
I was going to say Open Fire seemed like a good one when we played it before.
Yeah. Open Fire
just deals 4 damage to a unit. It's good for just clearing a unit off the board.
Absolutely. You see something, you shoot it. And also that can be used on any unit in space or ground. It doesn't matter. You just target them and you shoot them.
It's quite useful for killing things like the
Sentinel we just looked at
and things like that.
Yeah, it can even be used on leaders, whereas other powerful cards like this one here, Vanquish, which defeats a unit, can only defeat non-leaders. It just kills them dead.
Yeah, let's put 3 Vanquishes in as well. Why not? Cool. That's very good.
What was the one that you quite like? The one that chucks things back into the hand. That was quite
Waylay. We don't have access to that one because that's a yellow aspected one, a cunning one. So that would appear under this filter here.
Yep.
Which is an out of aspect one. If we tried to play Waylay, then that would cost 5 rather than 3, because we haven't got the cunning aspect represented in our leader or our base.
So we probably don't want that. So let's go back to the things we do want.
Yeah, exactly.
I haven't seen Force Throw. Let's see what. Let's just see what Force Throw is.
Force Throw is a really good. I'm going to move it in. Oh, there we go. Force Throw is a really good card if you've got a Force user, because you target your opponent, they pick a card in their hand, they have to discard it.
And if you've got Force user, you do damage. Then that's really good for a 1-cost card. Yeah, let's take some Force Throws.
That's pretty good, even if you haven't got a Force user, to be honest.
Yeah, just they have a plan of what they want to do in the next 2 turns. You just say no.
Indeed. Maybe if you play it early in the game, they want to keep all of their low-cost cards to be able to play in this turn, the next turn, the turn after, and they'd be happy getting rid of the high-cost card that they think they'll draw again later. But if they get rid of the high-cost card and you've got a Force user, then that'll do more damage than if they discard a low-cost one. So it's great for an early game play.
I love it, actually, yeah.
All right, let's bung some of those in. Where was that? Force Throw. There we go.
One of you guys just failed at turning your phone into silent, by the way.
That would be me. I'm going to get texted.
This is why we have to be a podcast, because when we've got visual aids on, we just
true professionalism. That's the one.
Precision Fire. I haven't seen that card either. Let me
Precision Fire. It's not that useful for us in this case because it buffs trooper units.
Okay.
Which we don't really have any of.
All right, but we're
get rid of that by moving that to 0 there. Removal cards are always good. Getting rid of annoying characters. This one here, Make an Opening, is good because for 3 resources, if you give a unit -2/-2, then that's all well and good. But if they've only got a toughness of 2, then that kills them straight away.
Oh, does it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even if they haven't, it's still going to cripple them. And if they've spent a
Indeed.
lot of resource to get something big out, and you cripple it, then that's pretty good.
Just for that phase, but that's still fairly powerful. Yeah.
Yeah.
And healing 2 damage from your base at the same time is always useful. So
Cool.
we can bung that in for the sake of
Well, let's do that.
as well. Yep. So far we've got a bunch of cards in here. We've done ground, we've done space, we've done events. Well, we've done starting, we've done space, we've done events. If we can just look now at the cost curve that we've got in our deck so far, we've got a bunch of 1s and 2s and 3s, 4, 5s. We don't really have any late game powerful stuff.
So we need
cool, but that's what we're going to add now, right?
Yep. So let's just fill it out with ground units at the higher end of the power curve. So I've changed the filter to just show ground units that we can take. And if we scroll down, we look at the really powerful stuff where you have Mace Windu, Luke Skywalker, Jedi Knight, Obi-Wan.
Right.
These are all
we need Obi-Wan.
I was going to say Obi-Wan's awesome because he's Sentinel and he has a buff when he's defeated. I can't remember what his buff is on defeat, but he is awesome.
Give 2 experience tokens to another friendly unit, and if it's a Force unit, you get to draw a card. It's a very useful buff. You're absolutely right.
All right, let's take 3 Obi-Wans.
Okay, so that's 3 cards we've got now at turn 6. Our 7 resources we could take either Luke or Mace or a bit of both.
Both, isn't it? We want some Force users because we've got a few.
So just to show you what these are in comparison when the edge of the thing isn't being clipped off the edge of the screen.
Yep.
Luke's power would be, so he costs 7. He's a 6/7, which are decent stats. He's a Force user. Whenever he attacks, he restores 3 hit points off your base. When you play him, you can debuff an enemy by -3/-3 for the phase, which is basically the rest of the turn. Or if somebody else on your side was killed this phase, give them -6/-6.
Oh, bloody hell, that's powerful.
So like with the event that we just talked about, if you take someone's health down to 0 using those debuffs, they die. They just go.
That's crazy. Okay, so we take 1 Luke, and Windu's got an ambush, which means
Mace
he fights.
Yep. So it means when you deploy him, you can ready him and then attack another unit straight away rather than coming in exhausted. He can't attack a base, but he can attack and kill another unit. And then he's got this little ability underneath it as well.
When he kills something, he's back ready to go again.
Yep. And
amazing.
And use him to attack again.
Does that mean you can chain attacks from him?
With this card, yes.
Till he runs out of health, yeah, I guess.
Because he'll probably be taking damage from the things that pling him every step he goes. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
But you can maybe kill like 3, clear the board. Cards that they talk about in other SLGs or other games like this where they just call clear. Cards that have clear can be very powerful.
Oh yeah. There is an 8-cost event card called Super Laser Blast, which is when the Death Star shoots the planet in Rogue One. And that clears the board of literally every unit, friendly and enemy.
Nice.
But as being an 8-cost, it's a difficult one to use.
It's pretty situational, that, isn't
it?
Yeah.
Something else worth bearing in mind here as well is you probably can't see it due to the resolution and graphics that we got on we're filming at. Mace Windu is a legendary rarity card, and so is Luke.
Okay, so you might not have that many of them.
They're going to be tricky to get hold of, but for the sake of putting them in here,
it's all right. We can have whatever we want.
Yeah, so we need 4 more.
Let's go 2 Mace and a Luke. So we've got 3 cards at 7. We've got 3 cards at 6. You can see here at the top it tells us we've got 39 cards in the deck so far.
Yep.
So we're looking at 3 copies of 3 more cards.
Yep.
And 2 copies of another card.
So probably ground units, really, isn't it? Is that what we're
after now? So we've got 1s, 2s.
Out units.
We've got some 3s. We could use some extra, probably 3s, 4s, 5s. Maybe.
Let's have Kanan Jarrus then, revered Jedi.
Yep, we have 3 Kanans. We can do that. K2SO is also an exceptional card. He's very killy.
I like K2.
So he's a 4/4 for 4 costs, which is great.
Yeah.
Overwhelm means that when you do damage, if there's any damage left over, it hits the base when you kill the unit. But when you kill K2SO, he will still do damage to your opponent's base straight away. An extra 3.
That's nice. Yeah, that's very good. Okay. So we need 6 more cards. Should we be looking for something else now? Fill up with ground units?
We're on 5. We need 5 more cards, so a 3 and a 2. We're taking exclusively ground units at this point because we already covered our 12 space.
Yeah.
Okay.
So looking at our costs breakdowns,
I feel like we could do with some more ones.
There's another thing we can actually use, another little tool inside this thing here, which shows us. It doesn't show us the full cost. Why does it not show us the full cost?
Is it because the deck's not finished?
Maybe. Oh, because I didn't save it. That's probably why. Let's save the changes.
Okay.
And then go back into the view. There we go. So here we're showing a tool breaking down the spread we've got by cost.
Yep.
Nice.
If you ever want to see that, that's another way that you can do this in here. Cards you've got by aspect, they're all in there. Cards by rarity is another little helpful tool, but this is less in deck building. The cost spread here is there. For a curve purpose, we probably want some more 5s. I know there's an 8 cost spaceship as well that we could take in these colours. So
all right, let's just fill out with that. Let's fill out with a few 5s and the 8 cost spaceship, and then that's a deck. Indeed. I mean, it's not a good deck, but it shows you how easy it is to build a deck in this tool, right?
Yeah, based on the criteria that you've got. And then over time, you can say, you can give the game a test and say, these cards work well together, or I heard about these cards having synergies together, and you can start choosing what you put in to help you decide what's good rather than merely the mechanics of how to build a base. So it is a tank. Let's put a tank. We've got a stolen Imperial Siege tank. Let's bung that one in. So we now have 48 cards.
Yeah.
And then cost 8, we've got the Redemption, the medical frigate, which we can put in there. So we're a little bit over on space units, but that's absolutely not a problem. These are not hard and fast requirements. They're just guidelines on how to roughly maintain the ratios that you want in a functional deck.
Cool.
So there you go. That's a 50 card deck. That's how you can use all the mechanics in SWUDB to change your filters, check and see what costs are available, what cards you can put in at each slot, how you can fill it all out, check what you're doing.
Nice.
Nice. That's good.
Sorted by type there, by ground, space, events. Sort them by cost if you want to see what the spread looks like. And so
let's go back to that spready thing you showed me a minute ago. The graphs. I think that's quite a good way of...
Before I do that, though, there is something else. This little function here on the left where it says draw cards. If you want to test what your card draws might look like initially, you just click on it and it'll draw you 6 cards.
Oh, very cool.
And this is what you might get in your opening hand.
Okay.
So that's not a bad hand.
No. Because 2 of those are going to have to go into resources.
Yep.
You've got a turn 1 play in your 2 costs. You've got a turn 2 play in your 3 cost.
Yep.
And if you wanted to mulligan it, what might you see? You might see this.
That's very cool, actually. Okay.
I like it.
I'm going to be building some this Saturday when the...
Yeah.
And then we've got... How many legendaries have we got?
So in that breakdown, there are 3 special cards which come in the starter set. Those will be the R2. Yep. 3 legendary cards, which would be the 2 maces and the Luke. 9 rares, 12 uncommons, and 25 commons.
Okay. So we could, if we really wanted to, work out the maths.
Absolutely. So that's the basics of how you could make a deck using SWUDB and the principles I outlined from Garbage Rollers. If you want to go even more into making things a little bit more complicated with advice on what to put in, what's a good card and what's a bad card, there's another YouTuber who's done a series of videos called Thork, THORRK, and he's done a tier list of all 252 cards in the set over something like 14 different videos. And at the end of it, he's got this enormous tier list, which is all well and good. So naturally, I've taken screenshots of the tier list so I can see all the ones that are meta-defining auto takes, generally good cards in A tier, pretty good cards in B, cards in C which are not bad, and cards in D which are just useless and you should never take. So that's another resource you can look at and use. I'll put a link to that in the video description below in case you lovely people watching this want to check that out. and I'll share it with you two offline.
Wicked.
Okay.
Any questions?
No, if I'm honest.
We just
Not
need to
that I think it
get.
will fit into this context. I think we
I was
just need to
gonna
get very excited about the 4 days until big
It's a
piles
launch,
of
yeah.
cardboard turns up.
Absolutely. So you've got the one coming for you, John, at the moment, and you
I
got all
do,
the
yes.
accessories that you ordered as well, right?
I ordered a stupid amount of accessories, yes.
Tony, what did you go for in the end?
Well, I've got 2 boosters and a starter set, and I've even already bought my magenta card sleeves.
So the card sleeves I was using, I wound up to be breaking them when I was shuffling them. So I've decided not to get that brand anymore. I did a bit of googling and I found out the Dragon Shield are the premium type of card sleeve.
Well, I bought the right ones then.
Yeah, yeah. I've got some of those. They're really easy to shuffle. They're really resilient, so I'm happy with those. They're good.
I bought them entirely because they were magenta.
Awesome.
Cool. All right, we look forward to seeing them on a future video. Thank you so much for watching today, guys.
Yeah, we'll be doing some more games using webcam. We'll be showing off a little bit of gameplay and trying to cater more to, I think, the less competitive crowd of people who are playing for fun and trying to work out what they're doing. But we'll try and put a bit of competitive stuff in there every now and then, because it'll be hard not to keep John's winning
edge,
hunger to fight hard.
5 times, you've beat me 5 times, so don't know about.
Oh, I don't know. If nothing else, I'm expecting you to pull out all the stops one day and try and.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'll hopefully get some good cards in the boosters. We'll probably be back at some point opening some boosters on stream as well. So stay tuned for that.
Week from time of filming, at least, anyway. So yeah, cool. Thanks very much, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.
We are still trying to grow the channel, so please do all the usual YouTube stuff of liking, subscribing, sharing, all that jazz.
Share, comment for the algorithm. If you don't like it, tell us so. If you
go
do
back,
like it, tell us that too.
Yeah, go back and watch our entire back history of catalogue of YouTube videos on repeat. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I might be a bit excessive, but props to you if you do. Thanks very much, everybody. Cheers.
Bye.